What's up, guys? Welcome in to the Power G Show on a Wednesday afternoon. I am Graham Coffee, the regular size G. That is the big G himself, Mr. George Foster, coming to you to talk dogs. Georgia Clemson. We live.
We live.
What we lie about?
I said we live.
We lied. I thought you said we lied.
No, we lied.
We lied a little bit. We lied about Clemson scoring a touchdown. I thought Clemson would score 2 touchdowns. Actually, they scored 0.
Yeah, I lied too, man. I gave them. I spotted them 10, and they let me down. But my dogs came through.
We were close on the score for Georgia. I said 34. They scored 34. You said 38.
Mm-hmm.
So we had it in the right ballpark. We underestimated. I don't know if we underestimated Georgia's defense. We might have overestimated Clemson's offense a little bit. But so game 1 of the season, we get a lot of like a brand new sample set, right, of things we've never seen. For you watching the game, like what was the biggest thing that stood out to you in terms of, whoa, that was really noticeable?
Man, you know what? I think it was let me see. That defense looked really fast, man, especially those linebackers, man. Man, they really popped off the screen. You know, I think I mentioned in last week's episode, I mentioned Raylan and that speed, it popped.
That 10,700 meter.
Yeah. And so you got that. And also, what also surprised me though, kind of on the flip side, is that we didn't get it going faster on offense. You know, nothing happened that concerned me. It was just some of those things that, you know, a couple miscues here and there, and but nothing to be concerned about. I know I wasn't concerned.
No, for sure.
You know, yeah. But I thought it was, you know, the points were pretty much how we thought it would be, you know, both of us, but they were spread out differently than I anticipated. You know, I didn't expect them all to come in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, it was funny because I was in the press box on Saturday, and a couple minutes before halftime, like some of us were comparing notes on like what we were seeing on our boards, right? And somebody made the comment of like, "Is your board ready to fire Bobo yet?" And somebody else was like, "Oh yeah, like they're hot, you know." And I mean, that's kind of predictable, right? Like what I would push back against is I saw a couple people that were like the first half felt like a like a 2010 Bobo game plan or something. No, it did not. Like Georgia ran motion on 40% of their plays in this game, which was twice as much as any other team in the SEC in their games this week. Like, you know, Florida, I think, was second with 20.5%, but that's neither here nor there. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you know, those motions that Georgia did in the second half and some of those like screens and all that, we talked about that last week in terms of we both expected Georgia would come out and do some of that to kind of force Clemson's pressure-heavy defense to tackle on the edge and sort of send a warning shot and say, hey, like, if you guys want to blitz 7 and play cover 0, then you better be ready to tackle on the edge. Credit to Clemson, they tackled on the edge very well early in the game, I thought. Georgia's blocking on the edge, I thought, left some things to be desired as well in the first half particularly. But everything that happened in that first half in terms of those jet motions and those orbit motions, Georgia comes out after halftime. They hit Arian on a little like 7-yard jet sweep. and then they come right back and they look like they're bringing him in a motion back across the formation again. He fakes back outside. The Clemson nickel corner, I believe it was, is out leveraged. Carson hits him on that explosive down the sideline, and then it was just like boom, explosive, explosive, explosive. So I get the frustration, I think, of people who are like, hey, we got a first round quarterback. We should score more than 6 points in the first half. On a certain level, I agree with that, but I would say what was laid in the first half was coherent and kind of built on top of itself and allowed Georgia to go and really roll in the second half offensively.
Listen, I trust this staff from top to bottom, whether it's, Bobo, Shoe, Kirby. I trust them. I trust the process. And you see what the process yielded, by the end of the game. So I didn't worry about that. Yeah, I would have wanted them to get it started quicker, but there's a method to the madness always with this staff, both sides of the ball. So I don't worry about Bobo at all. Never have. It's just like you said, it's things that it's layers to it. There's layers to it. Some things set up other things. It just has to get going. It has to get going that way. And I don't know how it's gonna play out this year for Clemson, but they came into this game, if you count last year, with a pretty high ranked defense. Were they top 10 maybe? Were they a top 10 defense last year?
Top 10 in pretty much every major statistical category last year.
Yeah. So you got you're facing a top 10 defense from a year ago in the first game of the year. A lot could go wrong. You know what I mean? And to eventually put up 30 some odd points, I think that's a positive, a huge positive. So
yeah.
Like I said, they didn't leave me worried about anything.
For sure. I would agree. And I think the thing that I would ask your opinion on, especially from the first half or really from the whole sample, but Clemson's front seven, we talked about it coming into the game. Like their starters, they got dudes. Like they had some good players, and you saw that. What was your impression of the offensive line? Like, from a success rate standpoint, right? Which is basically just a measure of how well you stay on schedule in on a down-to-down basis in a football game. From a success rate standpoint, with inside zone concepts, Georgia ran inside zone about 13 times or some form of inside zone. Not super successful. Success rate in the 20s, not very efficient. Didn't really have much explosive inside runs. Is that concerning? Like, what did you see from the offensive line in terms of blocking Clemson up front?
As my illustrious co-host has blessed me with on this screen right here, it says 447 yards at plus 4.1 yards per play advantage.
It does.
That tells me they did their job for the most part. Again, they're playing against dudes. Number 11 is a hoss. They played against some dudes and they handled their business. I don't, like I said, I'll say it again and again. I don't worry about those coaches, and I don't worry about this offensive line. This offensive line, typically when you lose guys, it's funny how having some guys missing last year at times, or even for the last couple of years, or even losing guys to the draft. We had some guys get some playing time. So this is not quite a young group we got playing up front, which is going to pay some dividends as long as they stay healthy. So I think, I think the season is only going to get better. To dominate the way Georgia did in a first game versus a quality defense, um, I think that's going to help us big time. Last year there was some rumblings about our schedule, even preseason, and then during the year, oh, you didn't play anybody. And could, could be true, probably some truth to that. But,
Sure.
opening the season with a quality opponent, especially on defense, I think that's a good litmus test moving forward.
Well, I
So
think there's an argument that might be the best defensive line they see until, I mean, like Alabama's got some guys that were 5-star recruits, but if not, like they're not as proven as Clemson's players were coming into this game. We'll see where they are in a few weeks when Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa. But yeah, I mean, like that was certainly one of the better DLs they'll play. What did you think? Georgia was running Truss and Freeling kind of back and forth at right tackle. Truss we've obviously seen a lot over the last couple of years. Freeling is another one of these 5-star recruits that Stacy Searles keeps signing, but this was the first time we had really seen him in a impactful moment, right? Like in a game of this type of magnitude. What was your opinion on those guys? Did you get an eye on them?
Let me tell you let me tell you what the good thing is. You could never I never was able to tell, because first of all, I watched the game from the game
Sure.
this time, so it's kind of hard to pay attention to what's going on, the rotations and whatnot. So them rotating out. The thing about offensive line is when you don't hear about what's going on with the offensive line, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't hear any names. You're not getting any texts from your buddies. Man, what's going on with the center, or what's going on with your right guard? Or what's going,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like that's fine. So I think competition is good. I've been through it. As a tackle, we rotated 3 tackles my senior year. I think it's good. So it's definitely not a bad problem to have, to have 2 capable guys at a position. So we'll see how it goes. The Somebody's probably gonna separate themselves, and so we'll see what happens. But we didn't,
You
how
didn't
many?
see a big gap between the two,
No,
essentially, is what.
nah, nothing major. So um we'll see, man. It's a long season, and it's
For
great
sure.
to have capable guys at tackle on both sides, because you're gonna need them. You're always gonna need them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I thought, there were times where you saw Beck's kind of processing ability, which we talked about coming into the game, like come into play. And there were times where it appeared Clemson's edges were starting to, walk some of these guys, not walk them backwards, but like they were starting to get some push, and Beck just would get the ball out, right? And I think that's the best thing going for Georgia from a pass protection standpoint. Maybe, I mean, they've got a ton of talent all over the place, obviously, but when you have Carson Beck back there who sees things as quickly as he is seeing things, the ball's getting out in like an average of 2.2 seconds. That's just not a lot of time for a defensive lineman to get back there and really do anything impactful. So as they figure out that right tackle situation and what they want to do there, and look, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they continue to rotate both guys all year, because we've seen
Mhm.
essentially do that before. But
It happened. Like I said, my
having
senior year.
Carson, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm saying, like I said, my senior year there, we rotated 3 tackles. Two of us went first round and one went second round. Like, like it,
Not bad.
you know, it's not a bad, it's not a bad situation to have. Guys want to play. Yes. Did I want to rotate? No. I'll be the first to tell you, I wanted to play every snap. But we had 3 seniors that were, capable of playing, and coach saw fit that all of us got playing time. So that's how it happened. And you can still obtain all your goals, So just play. When it's your time, play ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking kind of at the moving out from the offensive line and sort of looking at the skill positions on offense. What did you think of the pass catchers? I mean, this was the first game post Brock, post Ladd. There was a lot of talk about that coming in. I think some concern from certain people. I thought Saturday was a really fantastic moment for Arian Smith to kind of be more of a short intermediate receiver. Like last year in week 1, I think he had 5 targets and 0 catches. Not all of that was on him, obviously, but this year, 5 targets, 5 catches. He gets involved in the run game, but also had some key blocks, which I'll just be very frank here. I think, if you had told me that a year or 2 years ago, I'm not sure that was what I expected Arian to become, like in terms of how physically he played. I thought it was kind of a very big win for Georgia in terms of their development of him. And, now that he's been healthy for a couple of years, what he's starting to turn into.
Man, it was great to see him out there doing his thing, man. He had at least and some key blocks too, man. See the one on the long run from Frazier. Like he got in
Mm-hmm.
there and got his nose dirty a little bit. That's all you want. That's probably all they've been wanting to see. It's just they've just had so many people that did it better than he did, you
Right.
know. And so, he got the short end of the stick. But now he's the elder statesman. He knows what they want, and he's probably feeling some type of, urgency to get the best out of this, to get the best out of, this year, because, it's some young dogs chomping at the bit, So I enjoyed what I saw from all of the pass catchers, man. You know, uh Dom Lovett, he did what he was supposed to do when he got his hands on the ball. You know, we had we got I tell you who showed up, is probably gonna be a problem for some teams this year is Lucky. You know,
Yeah.
he's gonna be a problem for some people. You know, uh, we got. So if you look at the list, how many people caught passes? Like it was a
Uh,
lot.
it was a lot. Hold on. I can tell you exactly how many it was. Uh, I mean, that's one thing Georgia's been really good at for a long time.
It was
11
double
guys caught
digits. I'm
passes.
pretty sure.
Or
Yeah,
no,
so I
it
thought it was
wasn't
double
11. I'm
digits.
sorry. It was 9. It was 9. There was 11 guys who were targeted. Urasek and Delp had a target each with no reception. Everyone else who was targeted, you had. Yeah, I mean, Arian had 5, Bell had 4 catches, Love it 3, and then Cash Jones, Branson, Lucky, Humphreys, Colby Young, 2 each, and Frazier had the 1. But the one that he had was, like a 24-yard gain, which kind
Mhm.
of put Georgia back over and on the doorstep of scoring territory, really. So, yeah, they spread it around. But I thought there were some guys who I thought we might see, like Sokobe White or Anthony Evans, who we didn't really see
Mhm.
rotate in with the first team. I don't know that that's. I mean, that might be just the nature of that game that Georgia was playing in, and those guys not really having a ton of experience and what Georgia needed on the field. Maybe it was a little different than what they could offer. I thought it was interesting. Like, there's been all this talk of you've got a first round level quarterback and you've portaled all these receivers, and I think people have been, speculating, will we see a more wide open offense or will we see more receivers on the field? But it seemed very clear to me that Georgia is not planning to get away from the 12 personnel stuff anytime soon.
No, Georgia's in the business of winning championships. And I think last year left a bad taste in their mouth, and they're gonna try to go do what it takes to get back there. There'll be games, I'm sure, when that is needed, but I think they have another. Is gonna be it's gonna be probably built a little different, but they have another team. It's gonna be ran a little different, but they have another defense that's gonna be really, really good this year as the makings of it. You know, just with all the it's not gonna be, let me see, big guy driven, but they got a lot out on the perimeter, a lot behind the line, a lot of linebackers, you know, young safeties, corners, a lot of speed. And, all we're gonna have to do is, put some points up on the board. And the ability to keep most teams from scoring, man. So it's gonna look different. We're not gonna have to just open it up and score a million points. We're gonna take what the team gives us.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, when you say not as big guy driven, I'm assuming you're referring to the tackles or kind of, what you see out there?
Yeah, the tackles, they're gonna do their job. It's not gonna be any, you know, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter esque type play. We
Right.
don't have those type of players. Those are generational talents for different reasons. Jalen is he's an all-star athlete. Jordan, Jalen Carter is also athlete, and Jordan Davis was, a behemoth that is also probably classified as an all-star athlete.
Yeah.
And guys like Devontae White, first round guys. We might not have those guys like that this year. We got guys that are going to do their jobs, and we have some talented edge guys, but the how would I call it? The star players on this team are going to be on the perimeter and behind that line. The linebackers are going to stand out. The DBs are going to stand out. And that's going to be a makeup of his team. So much you're going to have interchangeable guys behind that line, and it's just going to be done different. But I think they're going to be really effective, and that affects how you do how you that affects how you play offense. Your defense is going to affect how you play offense. And so
Yeah.
we're not going to be in a hurry to just blow it wide open. You know what I mean? We're going to take what you give us and score and keep you from scoring.
No, for sure. And I mean, to me, like, just in terms of everything that we saw on Saturday, and I know you alluded to this earlier as well, but the biggest like night and day difference between the Georgia team that I saw in Atlanta in December and the Georgia team I saw in Atlanta on August 31st was those linebackers. The way those guys moved, like the way that they saw things, the way that CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson kind of all of a sudden, like over an offseason, went from stutter stepping and biting on fakes and sort of hesitating at times to just glide everywhere, man, just gliding. Like it was like there was never any wasted movement. There was never wasted moments. Raylan, I think it was, got held on one pitch to the outside early in the game that went for 7 yards. And after that, like, I think Clemson had, 5 or 6 outside runs that combined for like 4 yards kind of thing. Like, I mean, that defense really struggled, I thought, with edge setting, and the linebackers struggled at times to defend some of those kind of like stretch zone and toss concepts, a lot of outside runs last year, and not on Saturday, man. Not on Saturday. Like those guys, you could tell that it was not just a point of emphasis for Georgia in the offseason, but like it really felt like a personal thing for those guys where it was, we are not letting anything come around the corners here. And they did, I mean, they really did not. And I thought the other thing I would say is, kind of like what you said about the offensive lineman earlier, you never really noticed those linebackers in pass coverage, which meant they were doing their job all day long. I mean, like, and that for Clemson and the way that offense was designed, and they have a really good tight end. Let's be honest, that kid is a beast. For them to just kind of shut all that down and shut down some of that quick passing game that Clemson really needed to rely on to be able to possess the football and sustain drives in this game was extremely impressive for a guy in Mondon who did not play any football at all until maybe 2.5 weeks ago, coming off foot surgery, and then 2 true sophomores who were thrown off the deep end at the end of last year.
You'd be surprised at how much difference a year makes. I always remember the difference between, I didn't play much my rookie year in the NFL. I got hurt the first day of camp. A really bad sprained foot, so I didn't really play much. But just even being on the sideline, learning and practicing whenever I could get back, the difference between year 1 and 2 is like night and day. Just knowing what to do, it's just so much difference. Like those guys played great last week. It's gonna get so much better. It's gonna be scary. It's gonna be scary. Listen, man, the last generational defense we had scary linebacker play. We had speed to burn between 17, 7 and 40 and 41.
Yeah.
Yeah, those cats was running. Channing and
Nakobe and Quay.
And Quay, listen, those cats was running, man. They were right now, especially Raylan. None of them faster than Raylan. You know what I mean? He's not the biggest cat, but he is zooming. You know what I mean? I'm excited for the rest of his year because he's gonna get better. He's gonna get more confidence, and I'm excited, man.
No, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I'm also curious. Like, I thought we talk about this a lot, and I think we talked about this a lot last year when Georgia was kind of struggling with defending some of those outside runs. Like, all these pieces work together, right? Like, it's not really always on the edges, or it's not always on the inside linebackers. Like, there's a combination of things that are happening and guys that are supposed to be moving in unison. And Georgia plays team defense. They don't play a one guy go out and hero ball everything type of defense. So I was impressed with the inside linebackers, but I also, like, we knew Mikel was Mikel, and he's going to continue to be Michael. But I thought the way that the young edge players looked, which again, these guys are all now becoming true sophomores, like Damon Wilson, had some of those vibes. There was that play where Klubnik was, kind of rolled out right and went to load up and throw one downfield, and Wilson just closed on him and hit him and caused that ball to flutter. Like, watching him close that space was unbelievable to really like witness in person. Like, it just did not feel like he was moving at the same speed as anybody else on the football field. It was crazy to see. But the guy that I want to shout out, because I haven't really seen people talking about him, is Gabe Harris, the 20, like down in the trenches, 29. Didn't play a ton of snaps. Let me make sure I got my metrics right here. I believe he played 20. Let's see here. Sorry. Just played 15 snaps. Six run D snaps, 9 pass rush snaps. But there was a couple plays where there's one outside run in particular where he's literally double teamed and Clemson's trying to hit something off the right side of the line. And you see him basically from the ESPN camera angle kind of disappear underneath 2 Clemson defensive linemen, and then all of a sudden sort of just pops up, and he's not moved. He has not let go of any space. He's held on to that space, and it forces the Clemson running back basically to hesitate, and somebody else rallies in and makes the tackle. But like, I remember when he had his first practice at Georgia, his first fall practice, and somebody who was there was like, Gabe Harris is physical as shit. And you could see that show up a little bit on Saturday, where it was just like he was, striking offensive linemen off the snap pretty consistently. And it was fun to watch. And, I think with Damon Wilson being the 5-star that he was, and Mpemba being the 5-star that he was, people forget about Harris a little bit because he's not really a true edge. He's more of kind of a defensive end body type, I think, but plays some of both. And I'm just very interested to see what he becomes, because I think right now, if I'm Georgia and, I'm facing a team that I'm thinking is going to be very heavy run identity, like, he's a guy that I want out there and that I'm going to stick out there and let him go to work. So,
and they obviously trust him too. If you're getting reps out there, especially on defense and Kirby's wheelhouse, you deserve it. You deserve it
for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's not gonna put any slappies out there. I can promise you that.
I'm curious to get your impression, with your background on blocking edge rushers, but also your background as an NFL scout. What do you make of Jaylen Walker and just him being an inside linebacker, and then he's down, with his hand in the dirt in certain situations? What is he? What is he not? What are your thoughts on that? Because he was impressive.
That's gonna be a tough one, man. I would like to see the whole tape just to see how he played off the ball. On the ball, we already know what he can do. He can set the edge. He can rush. He has the motor. He's probably going to emerge as one of the top defenders in the nation this year. Just through sheer production. You look at my man, what's my guy at LSU that they
Harold Perkins.
They got Perkins stacked now. Jaylen might end up being the guy, that in that role, maybe, over Perkins. He showed a lot last week. I think he surprised some people. I think people that watch Georgia football weren't totally surprised because we've all wanted to see him play more,
Right.
because of what he's done in spurts, when he's gotten a chance to rush. Um, but we got a chance to see more of the total package, I think, um, last week with having to set the edge and getting the chance to rush some too, and not being taken off the field as much.
Yeah,
So,
I'm curious if he
yeah.
can be like a Hassan Reddick kind of guy, right?
Mhm,
Like, I mean, he's not that tall per se, right? Like, I think
mhm,
he's 6'2", 6'2 and a half, but
mhm,
neither is Reddick, and he became a 15 sack guy in the NFL when they finally just said we're going to stick you on the edge and let you go do what you do really well.
mhm,
But Kirby said something interesting in the post game when we were in there. He got asked a question about Jaylen, and he said that we as coaches, he has challenged us as coaches
mhm,
to find ways to use his skill set because it's so unique. And what if we've learned one thing at all under Kirby, especially through the last 3 years, is that every season we get like a couple pages of the book. We don't, as things go along, we get a little more revealed and a little more revealed. And like Georgia, really did not need to go put any exotic pressure packages on the field on Saturday, the way that they were
mhm,
locking everything up in the back seven.
no,
So I'm very curious to see what he really is, and how they use him as we go through the next 11 games of the regular season and whatever is beyond that. Because to your point about just how good of a staff Georgia has, like when you put those unique skills with the creative minds that UGA has, I think they could use him in a way that is not just unique in terms of what we've seen at Georgia under Kirby Smart, but is really unique in terms of what we've seen in college football.
listen, I think we've only scratched the surface of what we're going to see about how they use him, for the simple fact that there are other young guys getting reps. There's other guys that had positive outings last week
Right.
that they're going to be able to trust moving forward, and having them on the field and having Jaylen on the field at the same time may end up being like, who knows, man? They might have him, they might have him roaming a little bit. They might have him. I'm trying to think in the Kirby era, how much have we used this scramble guy? Much, but like that, we can do. We'll have that ability because
Mm-hmm.
having other guys that you trust on the edge, you give them ability to move Jaylen around some if they want to. You know what I mean? I know we like that. I know we like to. We don't do a whole lot of exotic stuff. We play sound, you know, sound football. You know, but you never know. A little razzle dazzle might not be a bad idea sometimes. You know what I mean? But I just that's what I
Yeah.
love about this team. When I said earlier it's gonna be done different, they just have so many pieces, man. Like it's kind of like it's it's really exciting to think about all the interchangeable pieces they're gonna have on that defense. You know, you're gonna like
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
is 4 gonna be a star? Is he gonna be a free safety? Is 24 gonna be a star? Is he gonna be at free? Who's gonna be at strong? Who's gonna be a linebacker? Are they gonna stack 11, you know, on, whatever down? Or are they gonna have them on the line? Like, okay, are they gonna put 10 in the game and stack 11? Or like I don't
Right.
like it's just it's so many options, and there are guys that probably didn't play much last Saturday. They're probably gonna get some burn. So it's
Well, and I
listen.
mean, they get Jordan Hall back from injury at some point. They'll
Mhm,
get McClellan Dodd, who was the South Carolina transfer, who looked really good
That's right.
at times on
Yeah.
day. And they
Mhm.
still, Brinson only played like 3 snaps in this
Yeah.
game before he got stepped on and went out. But you go back and look at the first third down of the game, and
Mhm. And we
bro,
chucked that guard.
yeah,
He chucked that guard. Yeah, I
yeah,
was
he
like,
put the dream
"Oh,
shake on homeboy,
oh,
dude. It was not.
oh, man." He put him down. He fell into the other line. Yeah, that was pretty nasty.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see if because if they can get anything from those defensive tackles by way of pass rush, like I mean, not anything, but like if they can get somebody in there that really starts demanding double teams on third downs, like I don't know how you deal with all the other things that are coming off the edge and the blitzes
Mhm.
and the stunts up the A gaps and because like look, Mondin can still blitz really well. I mean, like we saw
Yeah.
Mondin come down and blitz off the edge against Ohio
Mhm.
State in that CFP and kind of saved the game in some ways with some of those
Yes.
pressures. So like, yeah, it's the pressure packages are going to be the thing to check in on and monitor week to week, especially with the schedule they have. And just see, what they put on tape this time that they hadn't before. So we'll have to make that kind of something we put a pin in and revisit here on the show
Yeah.
because I think people would enjoy that.
And I was looking at just some old stuff the other day and just realizing how much we sent Nakobe, and I can imagine just doing that with 5. Just it's a lot of speed to burn.
It is. It is. Yeah. It was funny. I got a question after my recap piece, and it was kind of like, well, Klubnik scrambled for a lot of first downs last year, and I was surprised Clemson didn't use him more on third downs and all that. Which it's a good question, and my answer was just kind of like I would imagine that whoever was up in the box for Clemson in charge of calling plays, whether it's Dabo or Garrett Riley or who, I'm not sure honestly at this point, but they had to come out there and watch those linebackers dart around on the first drive or two and say,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think Cade Klubnik's legs are going to beat these dudes to the corner in this game. And I think, you know, Jackson Dart, some of these, I mean, like Milrose a different animal. Milrose a run like he's got running back
Yeah,
skills at the quarterback position, but
yeah.
it's just I don't think you're going to see much by way of the quote unquote dual threat guys creating problems for Georgia this season. I feel like that's going to be a stretch. All right, so I would be remiss if I didn't before we kind of get off this. What were your impressions on Bolden? Played more snaps than anybody on the team on Saturday. I mean, I think this is a pretty crazy stat that I'm about to give you here, but first ever start in college football, and he goes out there, plays 28 coverage snaps, and he gives up 8 yards receiving as a strong safety who was in man coverage quite a bit in that game. What'd you think?
Um, I'll admit I didn't see a whole bunch of him in high school. A lot of the high school like reps I saw with him on offense, just blowing past
Mm-hmm.
people, catching touchdowns. Um, so I would say that this game really impressed me, and it showed me why he was, some people like, if not top player in the country, if not top, depending on who you ask, top 5 player in the country coming out, you know, definitely number 1 at his position. And he showed why. He's an amazing athlete. That's only gonna get better. And that tells me that the way he was able to be out there that much, that he was trusted to be out that much, tells me he must be a genius. He must be smart as hell. Um, because just from what I've heard about that defense, it's not easy. It's not easy to learn. and that kid, obviously has digested it all, or at least most of it, to where they trust him to be out there and to do it at full speed. It's very impressive, man. We're looking at, you know, if not definitely freshman All American and All Conference player. Um, if he plays a lot, he could be one of the better players in the country as a freshman.
Well, and to your point on that, um, Kirby mentioned, not having Aguero out there was a, a stressful thing for them, because they get to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they still don't know if he's going to be able to go. And they're rotating these guys, and every time one rotates, another rotates. And so, those guys in the secondary, he was talking about those safeties essentially, the guys playing over the slot and in the back. They had to know 3 or 4 positions on Saturday and move around accordingly. And it's like, for any of them to do that is impressive. For Malachi to do what he did is impressive. But to have a true freshman in his first college game come down, and I mean, from an alignment standpoint, he was in the box for 22 snaps. He was at free safety, or he was back as a safety for 20 snaps, and then he was over the slot for 7 snaps. And I mean, you kind of forgot he was out there at times, George, because there wasn't people running past him. I mean, it was really, it was reminiscent of Malachi against Oregon in 2022, right? Where I mean, he just goes out there and my question is, I don't know that it's unfair now to say that Georgia has the best safety tandem in the country. If you have him and Starks back at safety, I don't know. You're going to find 2 better than that anywhere in college football this year.
Yeah. It's like I said, it can only get better. I only see it only getting better, with the experience that Bowden's getting. So
yeah,
like, what do you say? It's gonna be, and I'm gonna enjoy watching those 2 play. And I see Malachi being a huge help to him. He's been in that position before as a young cat, and he just seems like that kind of gentleman anyway. That's just very business about his business and wants to see the other guys do well, and he's gonna have them. He's gonna have them right back there.
Yeah, for sure. Give me one thing for Georgia. I mean, I know it's hard to find it after a 34-3 opener against a team that, look, Clemson ain't what they were when they played in 2021, but we talked about this going into the game. Nobody had beaten Clemson the way that they just got beat on Saturday since, in a decade, truly. So it's hard to find much to gripe about on that performance, but if there was one kind of improvement point that you could give for Georgia, or one thing you want to sort of monitor going forward, what would it be?
That's an interesting question. It's gonna be interesting to see how we do with the deep passing game. We'll see how often can we get downfield. You know what I mean? And like you mentioned earlier, the efficiency with inside runs wasn't the best. So I think those 2 things, the deep passing game and the interior runs, I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to get those going. And I see it happening. I think they got I think they got I think we got a good offensive line overall. I think they got some really good interior players. Wilson is catching the eye of a lot of people, a lot of prominent people in the scouting world and the offensive line world. The Charles Bentleys of the world. He did a piece on Wilson the other day, talked about him at length, and how impressive he was in the first game. I mentioned on a fan of a guest of 100 Sanford, Jordan Reed. He talked about him climbing up draft boards. And so we got what it takes on the interior. And of course, the guards have been, lauded, even before coming into the season. So we have what it takes on the interior, but we just have to have we got some running backs that we got a freshman and we got another guy that hadn't played. And
Right.
we, it's gonna take a little minute, for them to get going. So I'm not concerned about it, but you asked, and it's something that didn't go as we would like it to go the first game. And so I like to see the interior runs do better, chew up some teams, and also see what the deep game looked like. I think we got it. With guys like we still got Arian, the speedster. We got Evans. We got some guys that can get down there. But
Yeah.
we just have to hold up in pro and still and see if we can find those guys down the field. But other than that, and then defense, they gave up 3 points, so I can't really
Sure.
find
Not much to complain about on defense on Saturday. Yeah.
yeah.
I think for me, the answer to that would be kind of similar to what you said, where my point of semi concern would be monitoring the separation that some of these wide receivers are getting. Like I'm not talking about Colby Young, who's 6'5" and you know physical, and you can throw it up for him. And yeah, I mean, you saw the separation he created on a 4-yard touchdown route. I worry a little bit for Georgia. And, I don't mean this in the wrong way. Like, Dylan Bell is a fantastic football player, and he is a ton of fun to watch. And if you get the football in his hand, he's like a pinball. He bounces off people and he creates yardage after the catch. I did think, look, like one of those drives in the first half, 3rd and 4, Georgia runs him. He's at X off on the wide side by himself, and they run him across the formation, and Carson, hits him perfectly in stride, but he gets tackled right there for a 2-yard gain, and Georgia punts on 4th and 2 because he, wasn't quite able to stretch out that space. And I thought that was a something that you saw against Alabama last year, which, don't get me wrong, Alabama last year had an NFL secondary essentially. But still, for Georgia to get to where they want to go, Carson is good enough to throw into those tight windows, but it does shrink the margin for error quite a bit when you have to do that over and over and over. And I'm curious to see sort of how that situation develops at X. And do they get, I know Anthony Evans is not as experienced, and maybe he's not going to be quite as crisp on some of the details that Georgia expects from their receivers right off the bat, but the dude can burn. Like, do you kind of Humphreys? We saw him come on that drag and just so it'll be interesting to see, because like Dylan Bell, I think there's no question he's a plus value player who needs touches. It's just going to be interesting to see sort of how they do that in a way where it's best for him and it's best for the offense. Because I thought Georgia, they were able to eat on some of those short underneath routes, and maybe that was what they always wanted to do. You really didn't see a ton of vertical concepts, but there will come a time where, buddy, if they can just put, some of these bombs on tape, if they can, score from far at times, then everything else will really open up in a pretty crazy way for the passing game. But yeah, I think to your point about the runs and all that, in a way, I thought it kind of made the second half performance more impressive, just because Georgia really over the last 2 years has been what they've been as an offense is extremely efficient. They've been extremely good at staying on schedule. They've been very good at creating, 12 to 16-yard plays, maybe not big chunks. And in the second half of that game, it's like they went out and created some big explosive chunks to kind of make up for the areas where they were inefficient, and sort of showed that they could win, by living off of just big plays. And it didn't have to, they didn't need 4 yards on first down to stay on the field. And if you look at sort of just what they've been, I would say that the efficiency is highly likely to improve. And so maybe if they marry those two together, you've got something that's a little more dynamic than what they've had, which is saying quite a bit, because they've had some very, very good offenses the last couple of years.
Yeah, what I'm encouraged about is that they were able to put up 34 points, and I I still I'm still excited for what's next. Like I think we have a lot of juice left in the tight end room that we didn't really get to see like a ton of. I think we have a lot of juice left in the running back room. I know we had a big game by Frazier, but I still think he's gonna get even better. I think he has some Swift in him, and then
Yeah, bro.
we getting other guys back too, and I think there's a lot of juice left in that room. There's a lot of juice left in the wide receiver room. I think we're gonna do some things with that room too. So listen, I'm excited about moving forward with this offense. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Well, I texted our mutual friend Keith Marshall after the game, and we were just kind of briefly talking about what went down, and I asked him, I was like, from the running back perspective, from a guy who played at Georgia, like, what was your thoughts on Frazier? And he was like, bro, that's what I've been waiting for, like, and he was like, not to say that, Kendall and Dejan and some of these guys that they've had the last couple of years weren't really good backs, because they were really good backs. But he was just like, we haven't had somebody quite that dynamic in a while. And when you put them out there with ETN, like, you've got two guys that are,
Mhm.
5'9", 5'10", 205 to 215, and they're fast. And like those little shoulder shimmies that Frazier was doing reminded me of Fred Taylor, who, as you know, is my favorite. His running style was my favorite of all time. So I'm excited to watch him for the next 3 years, man.
Listen, man.
I think that's going to be fun.
Listen, man. What I can really appreciate about Frazier is he it's probably not noticeable to the naked eye to most people, but he has, in my opinion, incredible instincts that we haven't seen from a running back in at Georgia in a minute. I think Chubb had great instincts too, but like Frazier is just the way he hugged some of those blocks, the way he was able to jump cut, the way he was able to set up blocks downfield, like some of those blocks that he broke off of downfield, like you just know he saw them steps before, like long before, or he wouldn't have been able to do it. Like he was making abrupt right turns,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
right
Totally.
turn, right turn, then like boom, there goes the block. Like and that defender was coming a long time ago.
Yeah, his vision.
I really like his vision and his instincts. You can't teach instincts. There's no disrespect to the coaching staff, but you know, you're not gonna have to do a lot with that kid to teach him how to run the ball. Just give him the ball. make sure he knows how to
Yeah.
pass block and do all this his dirty work. But you just give him the ball and like he was really like that. He hugged the blocks well. He knew how to bait he knew how to bait the linebackers, to get them lost in the sauce. It's it's the stuff I saw in his when I saw his high school tape, I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, we got one. We got one." Like we got one, and I could tell he was gonna play early, because some of the stuff, running back is probably the easiest position to play early, and anyway, but he has some stuff that translate to any level. So,
For
it,
sure. Well, I thought for me, like the thing, and I don't understand hugging blocks and some of those things on the level that you do, but just from a pure like aesthetic standpoint, I appreciated the fact that you could tell from the rip that that kid was like he was big game hunting. You know what I mean? Like you see a
Mhm.
young running back normally come into a game and they're gonna find a crease and they're gonna put their head down and they're gonna just try and
and
get
they're
as
gonna
many
fall.
yards. Yeah.
And they're gonna get tripped up. I saw that with a lot of backs, man. Like, Sony used to have that issue. They used to trip him. Even Keith used to have that issue early on.
Uh-huh.
As fast as he was, like you can grab him by the shoestring when he first got to Georgia. And then as he got older, he started picking those legs up, and then we start getting them long Keith Marshall runs, them
Yeah.
burner. You know what I
Those
mean?
80 yarders. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this kid right here, like, he kept his feet and kept his balance. He had really good balance. He had the total package, man. He had the total package, man. I saw a little clip of him, like, is showing his journey, like from even as a Pop Warner kid, man, and his training. He's been training since he was a little tyke. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
dude, I saw that. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
he's been ready
he
for
had
this.
he is a born running back, you know.
Yeah, I loved watching him just kind of say like, you know, the amount of athletic arrogance required to step onto a college football field on that stage first time in your life and cut that run back off that toss sweep the way that he did and
Mhm,
not be afraid to do it and not be afraid to bounce things outside like
mhm,
that's just not to be cliche about it but it's like that is different that's just not
mhm.
something we get to see that much so it'll
Yeah,
be
he's
fun
gonna
to
be a
watch.
fun. Yep, I was saying the same thing. He's just fun. He's gonna be a fun player, man. And it's so much variety in that backfield that I'm excited. Get big zero back. Nobody wants to stand in front of that cat. He looks like a
Dude,
freaking.
230
He's
with
a hou
6% body fat.
he's a house, like Greg Jones. He looks like Greg Jones.
Oh man, that's a
He's
good
like that,
comp.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, Greg Jones, Florida State.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see if he has that mean streak like Greg. But man, like it's some variety in that backfield, man. I'm 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 excited.
No doubt. What all right, let's move on. I mean, look, we're not going to preview Georgia Tennessee Tech because we all know what's going to happen. But I am going to ask you for a score prediction before we get out of here. So, give me a score prediction: Georgia versus Tennessee Tech.
How
Out
many
of
points
the
did they score last week?
so they gave Middle Tennessee a good game. Actually, I watched because I'm a
That's what I thought.
sicko, as you know. I was up at like 1 o'clock in the morning watching the final sequence of Middle Tennessee versus Tennessee Tech, and Middle Tennessee ran in like a 30-yard touchdown with like 6 seconds left to win the game. But Tennessee Tech is FCS; they're not FBS. But last week they gave up. They lost 32-25 in a heartbreaker in Murfreesboro.
Uh, I
Their
say
quarterback went 27 of 38 for 256 and 3 touchdowns. And they're back. He was all right. 11 carries, 52 yards. Got some cat named DJ Lincolns, 7 receptions, 61 yards. But
pro style.
what's that?
Pro style.
Nah, a little more,
That makes a difference for me.
They're a little more of a spread it out kind of attack. They're a little more,
Okay.
Yeah.
I say 48-0.
They had 14 guys with a reception last week, actually, which is pretty impressive. 48. Yeah, I mean, it feels like
no. You know what? 48-3.
I swung you 3 points there. Yeah. My experience has become that once Kirby won a national title, it was like I don't need to beat the shit out of some FCS school to show everyone how good I am. Not that he ever really was like that, but like it really became, I'm gonna play my best 20 players, maybe like a dozen snaps each, and we're gonna get guys experience and all that. So, and I think Tennessee Tech, their passing game will be able to probably move the ball some at times, especially if Georgia's got more of these kind of young guys in. So I'll go I'll say 41. No. Yeah, I'll say 41-9.
Okay. 3 field goals.
Yeah, or a weird missed 2-point conversion, something like that. I just, you look back at Georgia's FCS games last year, or not even just FCS, but some of these walkover kind of style opponents. Like Kirby uses these games as practice, which means he's going to tell Mike to call a bunch of inside zone because they didn't run it last week, right? And they're gonna make these guys kind of do what they're not good at. I mean, last year they went 48-7 against UT Martin, 45-3 against Ball State. Who'd they play? 49-21 against UAB, which had a lot of people stressed out. And then Sanford 2 years ago, 33-0, which I know Kirby had a relationship with that coach, but they had that 39-22 game against Kent State a couple years ago, which Sean Lewis had a good system and some guys that ended up transferring up to the FBS level. But point being, like, this game is not going to be about anything for Georgia, but getting better. And to get better against a team like this, you've got to kind of, turn the sliders up to Heisman level in the video game. So I expect Kirby to do exactly that.
Yep.
All right. Any thoughts on 59-3 from Chris Barber? I like the optimism. Hey, I mean, you never know. If these guys, 42-7, Chris. I'm kind of in the ballpark with Chris here. I'll put it this way though: if Tennessee Tech can't, stop the run, then 59-3 is on the table because I think Georgia's going to run the ball a lot. Any thoughts on any of these other games for this weekend? You got Texas, Michigan. Texas, blew out Colorado State on Saturday. Just absolutely annihilated them. I believe it was 56-0. Michigan, little bit shaky against Fresno. I think their receivers only had like 1 reception in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Very ugly. But I'm also not sure, George, if they're actually playing the quarterback that they're planning on playing all year. I'm wondering if they have a little bit of some subterfuge going on. 30-10 was the score against Fresno State. Texas loses 2 first-round defensive tackles, though. Michigan still has their first-round defensive tackle. What do you think?
I think Texas, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm a hater when it comes to both of these teams. Um, I think Texas beats them by 2 tuds.
They're a 7.5-point favorite, so
Yeah,
it's not crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
2 tuds.
yeah, the total in this game.
At least 10.
um,
I think Texas
Yeah,
beats them by at least 10.
yeah, the total in this game is only 42.5 points, so I think they expect it to be rather low scoring. I think everybody's like expecting Texas to come out there and blow them out. I think they could. I told somebody earlier this week I'm gonna make 2 bets on this game. One is gonna be Michigan on the money line, and the other is gonna be Texas like alt line to like win by like 14 plus or even 17 plus kind of thing, because it feels like Texas is either going to be able to block Michigan and they'll roll from there, or they're not going to be able to block those defensive tackles, the ones that Michigan kind of rode last year, and they
Now,
will find themselves in some problems.
now, it's something I just thought about. What's Texas looking like in the backfield? They
They've
had
got those injuries.
yeah, like season ending. So who took those? Who took the place? Are they talented behind those 2 studs they lost?
So I think they lost. If I'm not mistaken, they lost 3 guys.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Let's see who took the snaps in week 1. They had Gibson, Jarrett Gibson, who's a good player. I covered him as a recruit. He took 10 carries for 67 yards and a tutty. Jaden Blue is the guy that they really, I think, will lean on this week. He had 11 carries for 57. He is talented. Gibson is a talented player as well, but they are young, inexperienced, never played on the road, kind of, all those things.
Mhm.
It really seemed like Texas tried to get their receivers very involved in the rushing game as well, even against Colorado State. So, yeah, that's a good question, man.
Could play a difference.
It could for sure.
Mhm. Who else this
Tennessee.
weekend?
What do you say?
Who else we got this weekend?
Tennessee and NC State in Charlotte, neutral site game. Vols are riding in on the wings of Nico, and a whole lot of excitement about Nico after he went out and balled against I believe UT Chattanooga. You never make of that what you will. It was UT Chattanooga, but Tennessee fans seem very excited about the result of that. The Vols are favored by 8 in this game, and you've got
Didn't they have a
Tennessee.
slow
NC
start?
State sort of struggled. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I think didn't NC State have a slow start last week?
Yeah, they did. They were in like a 4-quarter game with Western Carolina. Final score was 38-21, but they were like losing with 15, 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, Tennessee probably gonna beat them up.
I think you're right. I think Tennessee is going to.
It might get bad.
The spread is a little suspect to me, to be honest with you, because it opened at like less than a touchdown, like 6 points or so, and it's been
That's
bet up
weird.
already. Yeah, and so like when I look at some of these lines, sometimes Vegas like they leave an Easter egg, right? Like Vandy was only a 13-point underdog to Virginia Tech last week, and I told somebody you should consider betting money line on that game because that's shady. Vandy. Virginia Tech has had potential playoff dark horse hype all offseason. You would think they'd be a 24, 30, 28 point favorite. Vandy goes out there and beats them, right? So I I think I'm wrong here, but in terms of it's a principal play for me. I'm taking the NC State. If as long as the spread is over a touchdown, I'm taking NC State because I feel like Vegas always knows something that I don't. So there you go. We got Iowa State in El Assico at 3:30 on Saturday. This is a disgusting game.
Points.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in other words, I'm afraid that there's snowflakes in hell. Yeah, 40 points against Illinois State. They are favored by 2.5 against the Cyclones. Total is 35.5 points. Who you got?
Nasty.
It is. It's a disgusting football game, dude. It is a disgusting game.
It's nasty. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the Cyclones.
Oh,
I'm gonna go with the Cyclones. Cyclones gonna beat them up. Shout out to my boy Reggie Hayward.
Reggie Hayward. All right.
Reggie Hayward, my Cyclone buddy from the Broncos that I played with. I'll tell him in the chat that I picked his squad.
There you go. All right. I like it. Cal at Auburn. Auburn favored by 13. 3:30 p.m. kickoff. ESPN 2. Over under 53.5. California is at Auburn. Intersectional matchup. Yeah, kind of a weird matchup. But Auburn went out there last year and played in a pretty close game that they almost lost. Cal has a really good running back, Jaden Ott. Auburn, I think, has a really good defense, to be frank, and we still aren't really sure exactly what that quarterback of theirs is going to look like this year. So curious to see what Auburn almost a 2-touchdown favorite. I feel like that might be a little too much, but I think they win the
game. They should. They should.
Yeah,
if they
don't, bro.
If they don't, it's going to be ugly this year.
It is. Yeah.
if they don't, it's going to be ugly. I got an old teammate out there in Cal too, so I can't pick his team though.
Cal's had some dogs over the years, man. They've had some good players. Kentucky is hosting South Carolina in Lexington. Wildcats are favored by 10 over the Gamecocks at Kroger Field. Shane Beamer and his team struggled mightily with Old Dominion last week. I mean, 23-19 was the final. Kentucky blew out Southern Miss. They had to suspend the game, I think, at halftime for weather, but they were up 31-0. Our old friend Brock Vandegrift is now quarterbacking Big Blue Nation.
How would he do?
Any thoughts? Let's see. What was his stat line?
They're gonna whoop South Carolina. They're gonna beat them.
He was 12 of 18 for 169, 3 touchdowns and an interception. So
that's pretty good.
It's all right. I thought I watched him a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I thought he did some of the things that he did at Georgia where he kind of stared down guys. Against Southern Miss, it didn't really matter. I think South Carolina gets off the mat a little bit for this. I'll take if I'm getting 10 points, I'm taking South Carolina. I think Kentucky probably wins the game, but 10 points is a lot. These two programs aren't that different. Let's be honest. I mean, they're both bottom dwellers of the former SEC East, and I just think South Carolina's defensive line is pretty good, and I think if you speed up Brock Vandegrift, that he'll throw you a couple turnovers. So I think those turnovers kind of keep it close, but Kentucky in the end is able to get it done.
Yeah, I think they win. Yeah. That's what I picked earlier. I had to help my daughter with a pick 'em earlier, and I picked.
Oh, nice.
I picked
Any upset specials for us from your pick'em or anything like that? That's all I got for you.
Let me see what she sent me. I don't recall picking any.
I've got an eye on. I've got an eye on App State going to Clemson, George.
Oh,
App State is a 16.5-point underdog. I mean, like, I think there's a universe where they win this game straight out. And
that's pretty nasty.
It's extremely gross. It's disgusting. It is absolutely. But I'll tell you this, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Well, so what I saw on Saturday from Clemson, to bring this whole conversation full circle as we end the show, I thought, all this talk of we're not going to the portal because of culture and all that stuff. Look, man. Yeah, A, you better, but B, like, those dudes didn't like each other that much. At least the offensive line does not. They don't rush over to pick up Cade Klubnik. I saw, some times where it just looked tense, and I mean, I thought there were some times where that defense kind of basically was just like, we know our offense isn't going to do anything here, so we're good. We'll bounce.
Listen, with another point that proved to me that he needs to jump in the couple in the portal for a few guys. Listen, when I seen Venables chasing with sand in his shoes, trying to chase down what's my man
Humphreys.
Like, Jesus Christ, he's slow. He looked like me out there. Like, what was that?
Well,
just
I asked you.
I said we said something like before the game, like the show last.
You said, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't put him out there."
I said, "Don't do it. Don't put him out there." And they put him out there, and it was not good.
Yes. No, it was. Look, man.
But in the pick'em though, back to the pick'em, we missed a couple games.
All right,
we got Wazoo versus Texas Tech.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. Mike Leach ball.
I picked Wazoo.
I like it.
We got prime time.
Oh, that's right. Colorado, Nebraska.
Yeah.
No, in Lincoln, but that's okay.
In Lincoln. Not Omaha, but Lincoln, same thing.
It's all the same place.
It's all the same.
There's steak and
I spent some time out there. Omaha pours into Lincoln on game day. There's nobody left in Omaha. Zero. Nobody. You could
steak and corn and red.
Speed down, like, there's nobody in Omaha on Saturdays. They all go to Lincoln. But yeah, I got them. You think they beat Colorado, or you think Colorado pulls it out?
Well, it's interesting because our old friend Dylan Raiola is gonna be out there starting for Nebraska. I am really not sure, to be honest. Like, because I know that Colorado struggled to stop the run early against North Dakota State, but they did settle down and stop the run in the second half. Like, their defense settled in and kind of figured it out eventually. I don't think Colorado's that good, but I think Colorado will have maybe the 2 or 3 best players on the field with Shedeur and Hunter and all those guys. I'm gonna go with Colorado to win it. I think Raiola gets overwhelmed a little bit in his first big start.
Now let me remind you this though. Nebraska last year didn't have much of a quarterback, and they still, for a minute, that game was, Was it though? I thought they got run. I thought early on that it wasn't bad. Wasn't it not half bad early on? Unless
it was 13-0 at halftime.
Yeah, 13-0. Like,
striking
With
distance.
what
Yeah.
with what they have on offense, skill wise, same guys. It could have been more than 13.
Yeah. So who are you taking?
Nebraska.
You're taking Nebraska. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay.
This is hard for me to trust Colorado's defense.
I don't blame you. I think that's fair.
It's just hard for me to trust the defense. And we also had on the pick'em, we have Arkansas versus Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Now that
Sam Pittman.
The Pittman.
Pit boss.
I picked the Pokes.
This is probably of all the games this weekend, the one that I know the least of how to handicap or just because Arkansas went out and for the first time, man, in how long? Like a long time. Like the vibes were high on Thursday night, man. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff by 70. I'm talking dudes were ripping off 50-yard touchdown runs and hollering at the cheerleaders afterwards. Like
I saw it.
It was like Bobby Petrino was back in town, which he is. So yeah, I
forgot about the Petrino effect.
Yeah, and they got the kid. They got that old quarterback from Boise in there. And look, Sam Pittman. There's a lot of things that he might be or not be, but one thing I know he is a guy that gets his dudes ready to play. Like his guys will go out ready to play, fired up. I think they run the ball. I think this is a close, this is going to be like a field goal game either way. It feels like that to me. I'm gonna give Arkansas the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not that confident in it. All right, you got anything else on your sheet? You got Utah Baylor on there?
Yeah, didn't have Utah Baylor on there. Nope. That was everything. We went up. We did all the other ones.
Perfect. All right. I like it, man. George, any final thoughts or tell people where to go follow you on social, any of that kind of stuff?
George Foster 72 on everything, I think.
Yes. Here's my final thought for today.
Ooh, I like that.
Run the 13 personnel, baby. 3 tight ends. We'll see.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I can dig it. I like it.
I know. Power football, baby. That's where it's at.